not much has changed here over sequential surveys. Obviously, cybersecurity, number one at high levels. And then again, that's followed by cloud migration, then analytics, data warehousing, and then collaboration, productivity. That's still going strong. I know you have a lot of different areas in your purview as both CIO and CISO. So do these top priorities align with what you're seeing? And are there any particular IT projects or the sort that you're looking forward to over the coming year?
Yes, so it's interesting to see the stratification of the areas here as represented on the graph. When you look at RPA and you look at machine learning, artificial intelligence, essentially it's trying to solve the same business use case, automation, or removal of excess resources, let's call it, whether they be human or otherwise. In terms of cyber being the number one area, not a surprise, but I think a lot of that is still going to be the byproduct of the newsworthiness of these cyber incidents. I wonder how much that spend will change or trend once we get a lot more leverage out of the AI, RPA type of things that will help close the gap in a lot of these cyber risk models, right? So I think more and more we're finally seeing an accurate representation of the application of artificial intelligence towards security rather than just being a buzzword. And we're seeing it essentially become a true measure in terms of risk management, risk analysis, whatever you want to call it. The other items here, I would say are pretty standard, although I'm still surprised that if we mean by cloud migration, active cloud migrations, I mean, these are things that we've been working on for close to a decade. And it's nice to see that there's still healthy business growth in that area, although I'm quite surprised, I guess, other than the largest organizations.
Yeah, on the cloud migration, I guess there's some maybe organizations mid and small that were a bit behind that are still playing some catch up. And then on the cloud migration, I guess what we've been hearing a lot these days really is it's a lot around the control and the governance. It's not necessarily that you're adding some net new cloud workloads, but perhaps you're fine tuning some of the infrastructure behind it. And then it's interesting what you mentioned on RPA and MLAI, because those two, obviously, they're kind of at the bottom of the top priorities right now. But when we've been running this Mac reviews poll for quite a while now, and they always like fluctuate a bit, but the interest is definitely there. And we're kind of seeing or hearing a bit of like a renaissance in how we hear our interview guests talk about RPA. Like you said, it's kind of really getting to the mainstream now, and maybe in turn some of that can cut down the costs. A lot of the cybersecurity costs too, I think, might just come down to the raw cost of these services are a lot, and there's so many different subsectors. So even if you're not necessarily increasing on all fronts, just the maintenance and the like you said, the buzz around it make it continue to be an area where IT leaders are spending.
Yeah, if I could just add one more point on RPA and versus, I would say juxtaposed with machine learning and artificial intelligence. I think when you think classical RPA, it's user and operational experience of the types of workbenches and also the way you build workflows. And I think what we've seen primarily, and I'm sure this is probably kicking a dead horse, but what OpenAI has shown with ChatGPT, for instance, is that you can get rid of a lot of the what I would call overhead or complicated artifact building or user actors around typical RPA. I see that as a very interesting value proposition to be able to supplant some of these workbenches like in classical RPA that take quite a while to master and quite a while to get any value past the regular use cases, right? When typical RPA use cases of finance is in the finance or back office area. To be able to spread that out now into cyber, as I've mentioned, but in other operational areas, I think the barrier to entry is going to be a lot lower. And I see the amount of innovation rapidly improving from the machine learning perspective to a point where it's much more tangible now. So it's an interesting way I'm hearing about both of these terms. And it's going to be very interesting to see vendors, how they position their messaging around this as well, given what we've seen with, I mean, ChatGPT is like the opening salvo. I'm sure there's other, obviously there's going to be more generative AI solutions out there that are going to be niche, either niched or incremental to what we've seen with ChatGPT. Very interesting dynamic there. I'm going to be
For
watching it.
sure.